You stand in the middle of a prehistoric forest, confident. Modern survival knowledge, honed to instinct, is at your fingertips. You prepare tinder, take out your flint. Familiar, precise movements, a click, a spark. But instead of a feeble flame, a roar erupts. You are thrown backward by a fireball, detonating with an explosion. The blast wave hits with the force of a sledgehammer. The heat scorches more than just your face. You feel the scorching air rush into your lungs, burning you from the inside. The reason is simple. You tried to start a fire in an atmosphere where oxygen concentration reached 35%. At such a level, combustion becomes explosive. Your very first attempt to apply your knowledge led to disaster. Fire became an enemy. But what about the air itself? Your fear of a Tyrannosaurus, that's a childish fright. The true threats of the Mesozoic era lay hidden in two fundamental questions. First, why would a modern human, at the top of the food chain, suffocate from this air, while a tiny Compsognathus thrived in the same conditions? Second, how could your immune system, capable of combating modern viruses, be destroyed by a simple scratch from a prehistoric fern? These two questions prove that your survival isn't a universal skill, but the result of perfect adaptation to very specific, modern conditions. We will answer them. The first answer awaits you in the second section, the second in the fourth. Forget everything you've seen in the movies. By the end of this video, you will stop fearing the Tyrannosaurus. Instead, you will begin to fear the air you breathe, the water you drink, the plants you touch. We will prove that the modern world is a fragile oasis, perfectly tuned for you. It's like no longer fearing a single red-hot ember, but realizing you are trapped in a blast furnace, where the air itself melts you. The threat, not an object, but the environment itself. We will shift your fear of teeth and claws to a fear of oxygen and bacteria. This is the true story of survival. Here's a map of our journey into a deadly world. In just 3 minutes, we will prove why your very first breath in the Mesozoic era would trigger an irreversible process of destruction in your lungs, leading to blindness and death. We will show data from air bubbles sealed in 80-million-year-old amber. In approximately 8 minutes, we will delve into the micro-world and reveal an invisible army of killers that would attack you at a cellular level. You will understand why your immune system would not just be useless, but would become your enemy. And in 15 minutes, we will shatter the main myth about predators. We will explain why human physiology made it easy prey, even for a turkey-sized dinosaur. In 3 minutes, you will learn how oxygen, the symbol of life, transforms into poison. Stay tuned. Oxygen. Without it, you die in 3 minutes. But in the Mesozoic era, it was poison number 1. The paradox is simple. More oxygen, it would seem, should mean more energy. But reality struck hard. Your cells are like a fresh apple slice. Normal oxygen allows it to breathe. An excess causes it to darken and rot in minutes. Your lungs would literally rot with each breath due to oxidative stress. This isn't theory. Air bubbles sealed in 80-million-year-old amber show that oxygen concentration reached 35%. Today, just 21. Such a level causes hyperoxia. This isn't just a cough. It's convulsions, alveolar destruction in the lungs, and retinal detachment, leading to irreversible blindness. The air poisoned you from within, and from without, it turned what you considered your greatest ally in survival into a deadly threat. Recall the scene from the beginning, the click of flint, an explosion. This wasn't a Hollywood special effect. but the basic chemistry of that world. The difference between fire then and now is like the difference between a gas burner and an acetylene torch. One cooks food, the other cuts steel. The concept of a controlled campfire did not exist. Any spark from striking stones, any lightning strike, caused fires that incinerated entire regions at unimaginable speed. The combustion temperature was so high that, according to some models, it could melt sedimentary rocks, turning the landscape into glass. Fire wasn't the only element out of control. Due to the atmospheric composition, the entire planet was a giant greenhouse. Why were there dragonflies with meter-long wingspans in prehistoric times? And why are they not here today? The answer lies in their respiration. Insects don't have lungs. They have a tracheal system, a network of tubes delivering oxygen directly to tissues. Its efficiency is limited. Low oxygen today is what curbs their growth. But 35% oxygen was a performance enhancer for them. This enhancer removed the size limit. And for you, with your lungs perfectly tuned for 21%, this same air was poison. Modern experiments confirm insects in hyperbaric chambers with high oxygen content become hyperactive and aggressive. The giant dragonfly Meganeura, with a 75-centimeter wingspan, was just the visible part of the problem. This atmosphere created an ideal incubator for microscopic killers. We've established that the air was poisonous. But how did its composition turn the entire planet into a scorching furnace? Oxygen is only part of the equation. The key to the Mesozoic climate was another gas, carbon dioxide. Geochemical analysis of rocks shows its level exceeded today's by 4, and sometimes even 6 times. The average annual temperature was 10 to 15 degrees higher. This wasn't a little warmer. This was a world without polar ice caps. A world where, in Moscow, the climate was like modern Cairo, year-round. Welcome to a world without winter and glaciers, where rains could scorch the skin. In the next section, we will show why, in this world, your body simply wouldn't be able to cool itself. Why did forests grow at the poles? And why was the global ocean level 200 meters higher, submerging continents? High levels of carbon dioxide created a blanket around the planet, preventing heat from escaping into space. This melted the glaciers. It seems simple, it was very hot. But this wasn't just hot. This was a world without seasons. Eternal, suffocating tropical heat and 100% humidity from the equator to the poles. There was no escape from this stifling heat. Ever. In such conditions, your primary cooling mechanism, perspiration, becomes useless. Sweat simply doesn't evaporate from the skin. It's like running in a sauna, where steam has just been added. You'd be drenched in sweat, but feel no relief. Your body, a broken radiator. Heat stroke would be a matter of hours. Your body would overheat, but attempting to cool down with water could lead to an even faster death. This climate was called hyperoceanic. A death sentence in 2 words. Vast areas of warm water and scorching air created ideal conditions for hurricanes. But these weren't the storms you see in the news. These were hypercanes, continent-sized monsters that raged constantly. Wind speeds in them could exceed 500 kilometers per hour, uprooting entire ecosystems. Shelter was impossible. But even when the wind subsided, it wasn't water that poured from the sky. High volcanic activity saturated the atmosphere with sulfur. The rains were acidic. Their acidity reached the level of tomato juice, causing chemical burns on the skin and poisoning any open fresh water. And in this water, An invisible army thrived, awaiting its victim. Imagine you can't breathe, not from illness, but because the air itself isn't suitable for you. High levels of carbon dioxide would cause permanent hypercapnia. This means constant headaches, nausea, confusion, and a panicked sensation of suffocation even with a full breath. But this is just the first front. Simultaneously, your lungs would burn from excess oxygen, causing hyperoxia. And your body would overheat because sweat didn't work. This is a triple simultaneous assault on the body. Physiological collapse was inevitable. Your body was fighting a war on 3 fronts just for the right to exist. It was an ideal target for microscopic predators against whom you had no weapon. We understood that the climate was unbearable. But how did it create ideal conditions for your invisible enemies? The answer is simple. Constant, high temperature, and humidity turned the planet into a giant incubator. Every puddle, every patch of mud was a petri dish where bacteria doubled their population every 20 minutes. But the key factor, the absence of winter. In our world, frosts are a natural sanitizer, curbing epidemics. In the Mesozoic era, this cleansing period did not exist. The micro-world thrived and mutated 365 days a year without restriction. So, the planet itself was physically hostile. Now let's meet its microscopic army. This is the answer to the second question from our introduction. In the next section, we will explain why your immune system would be not just weak, but absolutely blind. A scratch from a prehistoric fern branch. In our world, an annoying trifle that would heal on its own. In the Mesozoic, a death sentence, executed in a matter of hours. The reason, your immune system is not a shield, but a library. For millions of years, your ancestors collected books in it about every threat they encountered. But against the bacteria of the Mesozoic, there wasn't a single page in this library. Your defense system was absolutely blind. Any microbe, harmless to the local fauna, was for your body a super aggressive pathogen with unknown weaponry. The outcome, rapid sepsis. Bacteria multiplied unchecked in your blood, causing organ failure. 4 hours after the scratch, fever would begin. After 8, kidney failure. After 12, death. Your body was defenseless. But what was worse, it could even attack itself. This condition is called immune naivety, an innocence that kills. Imagine your immune system as an army guarding a castle. In the first scenario, enemy soldiers, ancient bacteria, simply pass through the gates. The guards ignore them because they aren't on the wanted list. This leads to sepsis. But there's a second, more chilling scenario. A panicked hyperattack. When the guards do notice one outsider, they panic and set the entire castle on fire to destroy it. This process is called a cytokine storm. It kills your body faster than the infection. This is what decimated indigenous peoples of the Americas upon encountering smallpox. Now imagine your body reacting this way to the entire biosphere. You couldn't trust your body. And you couldn't trust your eyes when choosing food. You're hungry. Lush greenery surrounds you, but all your survival guides are useless. Why? Because over 90% of the plant biomass around you was not just inedible, but actively poisonous. The Mesozoic world, a realm of ferns, cycads, and conifers. To protect themselves from herbivores, they contained potent neurotoxins and carcinogens. But the key wasn't what was there, but what wasn't. No flowering plants, which means no fruits, berries, grains, or edible roots. Any foraging strategy was doomed. Many ferns contain the enzyme thiaminase. It destroys vitamin B1 in the body, causing paralysis and neurological collapse. Plants were poisonous. But even if you didn't eat a poisonous plant, its poison could still kill you. How could poison from a fern you didn't touch end up in your body? The answer: bioaccumulation. Herbivorous dinosaurs ate tons of toxic plants. Their bodies were adapted, but the poisons accumulated in their tissues, fat and liver. They were walking containers of poison. By killing and cooking such a dinosaur, you would receive a concentrated, potent dose of toxins with the meat. Seemingly safe food turned into poison. It's like a sponge. The herbivore absorbed poisons for years. By eating it, you squeezed all that filth directly into your system. So the air, climate, bacteria, and food were against you. But we forgot about the most effective carriers of death. The next threat was the size of a fingernail, yet carried death from dozens of diseases simultaneously. Why was the bite of a prehistoric mosquito more terrifying than a modern snake bite? Because it carried not venom, but a weapon of mass destruction. The insects of that world carried not analogues of malaria, but proto-versions of bacteria, such as Clostridia. Upon entering a bite wound, they would cause gas gangrene, rapid tissue necrosis, turning your flesh into a putrefying mass. And this wasn't a threat of isolated bites. In a world without winter, the population of blood-sucking insects was hundreds of times larger than in modern jungles. It was a constant, relentless assault by swarms. Gas gangrene from these bacteria would kill in 24 hours with no chance of cure. Insects attacked from the air. But an equally terrifying threat lurked in the water. How could one dead dinosaur, falling into a river, poison it for kilometers downstream? In the hot climate, its carcass would decompose in hours, turning into a bioreactor for trillions of cadaveric bacteria, to which you had no immunity. Every river was filled with feces, cadaveric poisons, and microorganisms. It's like trying to scoop clean water from a sewer. In the Mesozoic, the entire hydrological system of the planet was such a sewer, where there wasn't a single clean source. Even boiling didn't guarantee safety. Many ancient bacteria formed heat-resistant spores, capable of withstanding 100 degrees Celsius. All your survival knowledge wouldn't work here. In fact, it would kill you. What is your main advantage? Intellect? The ability to create tools? Let's see. Attempting to find edible plants leads to poisoning. Attempting to start a fire, an explosion. A stone knife you crafted with the slightest cut becomes a source of deadly infection. All basic survival strategies led not to salvation, but to contact with new threats. Seeking shelter in a cave, an encounter with swarms of insects, seeking water, a bacterial soup, seeking food, poison. Your four main skills, fire, food, water, shelter, turned into 4 guaranteed ways to kill yourself. Your survival is based on managing our ecosystem. In an alien one, you are the most maladapted species. And this maladaptation makes you easy prey, but not for whom you thought. Why have we barely mentioned the Tyrannosaurus all this time? Because it wasn't your main threat. As today, encountering an apex predator was an extremely unlikely event. You would have died long before you ever saw one. The real, everyday threat came from hundreds of species of small and medium-sized predators, dromaeosaurs, troodons, which were everywhere, like wolves or coyotes today. For every Tyrannosaurus, there were thousands of them. We've covered all the invisible threats that weakened you hour by hour.
Now we will shatter the main myth and show why a human, weakened by a poisonous world, would be absolutely defenseless, even against a turkey-sized predator. In the next section, we will explain what biological advantage made them ideal hunters, and you the ideal victim. How could a turkey-sized dinosaur pursue you for hours, while you, a modern athlete, would be exhausted after 100 meters? The answer isn't in its strength, but in the betrayal of your lungs. A dinosaur's respiratory system worked like a flow-through hose. Fresh air constantly moved in one direction, passing through the lungs into specialized air sacs. This was a turbocharger, ensuring a constant influx of oxygen. Your lungs? A sponge? You absorb air, then squeeze it out, mixing fresh and stale. But it's not just their advantage, but your fatal flaw. In an atmosphere where carbon dioxide levels were 4 times higher, your blood would instantly acidify. Any attempt to breathe deeper would only intensify the oxygen poisoning. When attempting to run, you wouldn't feel shortness of breath, but tearing chest pain, muscle cramps, and blurred vision. Your biochemistry would fail. Your lungs betrayed you, but they weren't the only sense that failed you. You would find yourself in sensory isolation. Why? Dromaeosaurs had acute vision and hearing tuned to low frequencies, but the environment worked against you. The dense, hot, and humid air physically distorted sound. Your ear, tuned to the modern atmosphere, would lose up to 30% of its effectiveness. The constant hum of giant insects would create white noise, masking the predator's footsteps. Your senses were not just weaker, they were suppressed. Yet, you would be heard and seen perfectly. A small predator would scent you from hundreds of meters away by your unique sweat odor, the emission of salts, utterly alien to the local fauna. To it, you smelled like a neon sign for free lunch. But you wouldn't notice it even 5 meters away behind a wall of giant ferns. Your physiology and senses were maladapted. But there was another purely psychological reason that made you an ideal victim. Why would a predator, surrounded by familiar prey, choose you? Not because of your nutritional value, but because of your signaling stupidity. Local fauna, over millions of years, developed instinctive reactions to danger, freezing, emitting a specific sound, fleeing along a predictable trajectory. Your behavior would be anomalous, but most importantly, your panicked reaction, piercing scream, and chaotic arm waving would be a universal signal of easy, wounded, disoriented prey to any predator on the planet. You didn't just appear defenseless, you actively screamed your vulnerability to the entire forest. All factors, from the atmosphere to your behavior, combined into a perfect storm, and its outcome was predetermined. So what delivered the final blow? Not the jaws of a Tyrannosaurus. You wouldn't even need it. Let's paint the picture. Your lungs burned by oxygen, blood acidified, body burning with fever after a mosquito bite that introduced gas gangrene bacteria, and your brain clouded by hunger. In such a state, you are no longer prey. You are a sanitary problem for the ecosystem. Your body, incapable of thermoregulation, would simply cook from the inside, from the heat and fever. And the last to show interest in you would not be an apex predator, but a pack of small Compsognathus, attracted by the smell of decaying flesh. The myth of heroic struggle is shattered. We've seen how every system of the planet worked against you. Now we will gather all 6 deadly threats into a single relentless machine of destruction. Your main mistake, you viewed these threats in isolation. But they didn't work in parallel.
They were parts of one toxic engine. Threat number 1, the atmosphere, and threat number 6, the climate, were its key components. This engine worked for destruction. 35% oxygen, as shown by data from amber, burned out your alveoli, turning your lungs into scar tissue. Gas exchange capability decreased with each breath. Simultaneously, a 4-fold excess of carbon dioxide led to acidosis, blood acidification. This disrupted enzyme function and blocked hemoglobin's ability to transport oxygen. Here's the synergy. Oxygen-damaged lungs couldn't effectively expel excess carbon dioxide, accelerating acidosis. And acidified blood couldn't supply oxygen to vital organs. It was a vicious cycle where each breath brought closer a cascade failure of kidneys and liver. But while the body fought a chemical attack from the air, a biological war began. The Mesozoic ecosystem was a perfect machine of biological contamination. It operated like clockwork in 3 stages. Stage 1, weakening. The toxic flora, threat number 3, didn't just starve you. Small doses of toxins from ferns and conifers caused chronic poisoning, suppressing your immune system. Your body became ready for invasion. Stage 2, delivery. Insects, threat number 5, were highly efficient flying syringes. A mosquito bite was a direct injection of protobacteria causing gas gangrene. Stage 3, collapse. Now we close the loop from the introduction. Your immune system, threat number 2, was useless. Your white blood cells had no instructions for recognizing ancient pathogens. Any scratch led to uncontrolled sepsis within hours. Now that all components of the destruction machine are on the table, let's look at its operation in real time. Here are the final hours of a survivor. He isn't fighting. He lies in a thicket of ferns. The air is thick and hot. Every breath, pain in his scorched lungs. He is weakened by hunger, because all the food around was poison. A few days ago, an insect bit him. Now his arm is swollen and blackened by infection. His body burns with fever. He hears a rustle. Instinct screams, "Run." But the attempt to stand up causes muscle spasms and dizziness from hypoxia and acidosis. He falls, gasping for breath. He isn't finished off by an approaching small predator. He's finished off by his own body, which succumbs to the onslaught of sepsis and hyperthermia. Death didn't come from teeth. It came from the ecosystem. The enemy wasn't a dinosaur. The enemy was the planet itself. Now that you've seen this systemic collapse, what frightens you more? A visible threat, or one that is already within? We have shown you 6 deadly threats. Let's divide them into 2 groups. The outside group, poisonous air, unbearable climate, and superior predators. These are the physics and chemistry of a planet that broke your body from without. The inside group, hostile flora that poisoned you, insects that infected you, and bacteria against which your immune system was powerless. This is a biological war that destroyed you at a cellular level. Now it's your turn to deliver a verdict. What, in your opinion, would kill you first, and most inevitably? Threats from the outside or threats from the inside? No need for a long comment. Just write one word that reflects your choice, outside or inside. Let's see which of these invisible worlds will, in our collective opinion, prove to be the most deadly.